Got new toys. That's what the knock on the door was. So, anyway. So, just like a computer can be programmed, I know all about programming. Like I was saying, you program flowcharts and loops. So, if then statements also work. So you put like a circle. If, or you say a yes or no question. The computer asks you a yes or no question. And then if your answer is yes, then there's these options that the computer has. Ask this question. Okay. And if your answer is yes or no off of that question, then it's got these other options that it can break down to ask you more questions until it breaks down to the last question, giving you some sort of result. And that's basically how programming works. And then a lot of times, if no, then back to the top, to the hierarchy of the questioning, and get a different answer up here. Ask the other option of question up here to bring down a whole other chain of thought, if that makes sense. So when it comes to people, there's a word that everybody loves nowadays called manifestation. And they all think that they can manifest a pot of gold. That's going to be my reference. I think I've done this video before. But if you're going to manifest, right? See, the way that works, what you're actually doing, they say, okay, well, you got to think this all the time. Stop thinking this way and that way. Start thinking this way and that way. And speaking, more importantly, speak this way and that way. So never speak about yourself in the negative, even if it's sarcastic or a joke. Because the right side of your brain, your subconscious brain, doesn't know jokes. Only knows logic and straightforward, and is a huge factor on your decision-making process. So you want to manifest a pot of gold. Well, you can sit there and say, oh, a leprechaun's going to bring me a pot of gold, and it's just going to pour out of the top, and just gold coins are just going to shatter out of it constantly forever. And just think that and sit there and wait. It's probably never going to happen. You know, you may win the lottery or something if you just sit there and buy lottery tickets with all your extra money, but chances are no, it's never going to happen. So instead, what you're doing though is reprogramming your brain, right? So you're telling your brain that you're not broke, you're not poor, you're rich, this and that, right? So comes to the point where you need to make a decision in your life. So you paid all your bills, you've looked after all your things in life, and you got $100 left, let's say. Now you've got choices to make with this $100. And if you're programmed to be broke, your subconscious brain is programmed to make decisions to keep you broke. So it's going to say, piss that money away. Take it and blow it on fuck whatever. Who cares? Just blow it. But if you've programmed a rich mindset, you're going to say, how can I invest this? How can I make this money work for me? How can I do something with this where it's going to grow or at least hold its wealth? Like, what can I purchase with this that it's going to do something for me in the long run, right? So then you go out and you learn stocks or crypto or about precious metals or something like this, and you start making that pot of gold. There's your first gold coin. You know, $100. It's not going to be much of a gold coin, but it's 2 silver coins. You know, it'd be 105 or something Canadian. So net positive, right? You just buy your first 2 coins, put them into your pot, and eventually it will be overflowing with coins, because you're going to keep doing that, making those proper decisions in your life. You're going to keep building your pot of gold or silver or whatever, crypto, stock, whatever you're into, and that's important, that you find something that you're into to invest in. Don't invest your money in something that you're totally disinterested in. Even if somebody says to you, "Oh, I get this inside information or some shit, and invest in this stock." Really look at it. Look what the company does. All that kind of stuff. Maybe they're right. Maybe you're going to make a couple bucks. But how are you going to know when that couple bucks is hit its peak, or when it hasn't, or like what's the roof on this? All these kinds of things. What's going on in the market with it, and how much is it going to keep selling, or are people losing interest in it, or whatever. And if you don't know, you got to go out and fucking look all this stuff up, and it can be monotonous and boring, and you get worn brain, right? You get that fog brain, and you're just like, oh man, this is so much. But if it's something that you're fucking interested in, and you go to that store all the time, like my portfolio, it has a lot of things in it, but Walmart, Amazon, Canadian Tire, all these companies that I use, Rumble, things that I stand behind as well, morally, so that I feel good about the money I make. I looked into, there's web pages dedicated to following Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio and just watching all her moves, and people just make the same moves and they coin it. But it was like military industrial complex, medical industrial complex, all these horrible, immoral fucking companies. Not to say that any Canadian Tire is moral per se, but they're not blatantly fucking immoral. They're not killing people or allowing death to happen in the name of profit. Death isn't their model, right? Like, in order to make money with medicine, you have to have sick people dying or in fear of dying or whatever. In order for the war industrial complex to make money, you have to have soldiers dying on the front lines and shit, right? So I just couldn't morally bring myself to follow it at all. She was investing also in different energy companies. So I did look into that more and followed some energy things. And I didn't necessarily use the ones that she used or whatever. Being the ones she used were huge as well, and my portfolio's tiny. I just looked around and found some different ones that I liked, and looked at histories and tops and bottoms and where they're at and where they were and how they could be, and all these, like, there's a lot to it. But if you're fascinated by it, there isn't that much to it. There's guys on the internet that'll sell stock information to you, like gurus and all this shit. You don't need that. You don't need to take the whole big course, and they're not really offering anything in the course that isn't just right there on YouTube. You just click YouTube stock stuff. Best thing to do is to look up the guys exposing the frauds in order to find the root information. Because with stock fraudsters, on YouTube. Their game is just to they'll watch somebody's video and then redo it word for word like it's their life and try to sell you a course and sell you other stuff and get subscribers. And then they make money from YouTube and tell you that they're making money from all these stocks that they're doing. And then they'll let you follow their portfolio a little bit and get you to follow down these trails of stocks and cryptos or whatever that they have no fucking idea about. They don't know really what they're talking about. They just are parroting somebody else's life. So you just got to be careful of that. But they are parroting somebody who is good and who had a good life experience. It's just better to hear it from the source than to hear it secondhand through a fucking liar who's trying to sell shit to you. So then you can, from those guys who are exposing the fraudsters, they also show you who the real guys are, and you can go and pick one that you like, follow him, and learn a lot. Or pick one of the fraudsters that you like, but just know that they're a fraudster, right? But some of them present really well. They're good at the art of presenting, and their videos are flashy and fun, and but just know they're bullshit. The other thing to do, find one that you like, and then look up for videos of people exposing him, because they'll block people, change their names, do all kinds of shit to hide as they go through it. Like they fuck so many people, and then, pardon my language, but then they move on. Then they have to reset their model, in order to get the next group of people in, because that name's corrupt now, So that's just a common thing, like the Edomites did all throughout history. It's just a common thing that easily people do. But again, if you don't like stock and you don't like any of that shit that I just talked about, then you can look into silver and gold and natural metals, right? And if you don't like those, you can look into cryptocurrencies and things of that nature. And if you don't like those, you can look into real estate, but you got to be at a standing point already. You need those three things in a combination, or one of the three, in order to, or two of the three. It's kind of what I do. I use all three, utilize all three, but I'm not a big crypto guy. I follow it, jump in when it's at its lows, and then jump out when I think it's getting closer to a high, and then I'll wait and jump back in later. I've only been doing this for 2 years, so total amateur, but just I don't have a lot of faith in it in the long haul for what I'm doing. Now, if I was 20, it would be a lot smarter for me to put some of my savings into the crypto and just leave it and let it age over time. Super smart, whatever. But at my age, trying to get into real estate, it's better to make what you can off of that particular investment, or some investment that you're good at like that, and then keep it in safer investment until you're ready to put it into something even safer or more profitable. I'm not a financial expert, and this is kind of advice, but it's not. Don't fucking base your life around anything I say, because, like I said, I'm just an amateur at all of it, and but a quick learner, and have learned a lot, and you can learn from my mistakes along the way, I guess. Anyway, don't know how the fuck I got down that conversation when I'm supposed to be talking about programming people's minds. So because of manifestation. So that's how you actually manifest, is by changing that right side of your brain to make better choices when you're there. Because whatever you program in the right side of your brain, if you're saying that you're broke and poor and life sucks all the time, it's going to make life be broke and poor and suck all the time. But if you say life is great and I this and that and I'm love is everywhere and this and whatever, then it's going to create that world as best as it can in every decision that you make going forward. So eventually making enough positive choices is going to lead you to having that life that you're manifesting. So you are essentially manifesting that, but you're just reprogramming your brain in order to make better choices. And it's a shame that AI works the way it does, because it would be wonderful if it could access every conversation that it ever had in order to have better conversations. But it's more analytical. It can remember, it adds to its programming with speech things like how to put in better punctuation to express more feeling or what have you, things like this, in order to intrigue people more, that it's more human. But it can't access the conversation that made it think that. It's just that that's now a part of its program. Oh, when I get a chance, I do this or I do that, and it'll benefit the person. It'll benefit the reader, right? But it doesn't know the reasoning behind it. It's just like our school system, where you don't need to know the reasoning behind stuff. You just need to know this is what we want you to remember. Doesn't matter why. We can give you a bunch of reasons why. Don't look into any of them. Just understand it. And it's really easy to do to university kids, especially because they're learning so much in the field. They don't have time to go verify it all. Like you got to cram all this fucking information. It would be much better if they just did experiment, and through their failures, that's experience is a word given to our failures. So they would gain the experience to be better at whatever it is that they're trying, the field that they're trying to get into, and they would be able to critically look at it rather than have it in a box and look at it from that box. Oh, okay, here's this information. It's got to fit in this box. How can I make it fit into my theory? And then if you can't, they just disregard it altogether. Put it in the basement of the Vatican or the basement of the Smithsonian and forget about it. Let it just be lost to history. I know maybe there's a newspaper article here and there about it, but no writings, no scientific research, nothing else about it anywhere. The object is lost to history and gone, unless you're in those families that need to know some of that shit. I presume that the head people, like, I don't know, Prince Charles or somebody, would be privy to a lot more history than us. Now, there'd still be things hidden from him that to keep him from going too light, and you don't want him going to God. More dark stuff, but more stuff. A lot more information. And especially about the satanic or lower gods, in order to keep them in the box as well, right? And mold them in and keep that same hate and generational disgust for mankind. The Andrew Jackson fought them, Abraham Lincoln fought them, JFK fought them, Trump's fighting them now. it's the same fucking group. They just keep fucking coming with the same goals, generation after generation after generation. It's crazy. So in order to raise your kid that well, you know, like they gotta be a fucking clone, or there's some real strategic parenting going on. And really different schooling in order to program that brain to just push and go for those same things like that. Like that, it's uncanny, man. Unbelievable. Um, but yeah, so manifesting things is kind of a fraud, but not really. You know, it does work, which is not the way that they're selling it. Like these gurus are selling it to you. You're not gonna manifest a lottery ticket. Chances are very slim. Now, if I have 1 million followers and I convince them all that if they manifest, they're going to win the lottery, or 2 million followers or something like that, and get them all to go out and buy multiple tickets every week, the chances of one of my people winning gets up there a little better. I don't know the statistics on it, but I'm sure it would increase the chances quite a lot. And so you're going to be able to sell that better, right? Because it's like, oh well, I got this guy who won X amount on a scratch ticket, and this guy won X amount on a lottery ticket, and this guy won that, and this guy even won the jackpot or whatever, right? And it's like, then all you got to do is sell that their wish was only for that amount of dollars or what have you, or that it led to them getting the rest of the dream. And you don't have to go back 3 years later. So it's not like you got to prove that they were able to maintain that dream. It's just that they won something. So if you keep things vague enough, and a lot of, like, if you spread a ton of seed, you're going to get a plant or two, you know. But you can use far less seed, you can put some love into it, and get more plants with less seed, and especially more successful plants with better planting, more thought into where you put your seeds. But again, through manifestation, your conscious brain doesn't have to know the path of where it wants to get. Your subconscious brain will help you to make better choices to get in the best situation that you can be in your station in life. And then you can keep growing on that to get to a higher goal. But simple manifestation can impact your life greatly. But don't think that it's metachlorites and the force or the universe or some shit like that. It's far simpler. Now, I'm sure there's also ways to contact and get in connection more with God and angels, and get blessings. But blessings are different. You can get blessed by God, like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all died rich, you know, like Joseph even more so. Like, you can be blessed, but simple manifestation is just gonna have a broader, better decision making process in your day to day life, which is gonna make your overall life better in the long run. But you're not actually, bending spoons with your mind, or making a pot of gold without any work. You still have to go to work every day, do your thing, and drive and try and put your work into it, your share of the work into it. Nothing is free. The Bible says if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. And our culture has totally lost that, and it's ridiculous with welfares and shit. But it's true. If you're not contributing, too fucking bad. Get off your ass and contribute. You know? And now some people could say, well, I contribute. I had a bunch of kids, and my kids are going to contribute to the full society in the future and all this stuff. Well, that's great. Raise good kids, keep a clean house, and try to contribute as much as you can from where you're at. If you're going to raise the kids to not want to abuse the system the same way that you're abusing the system, so that it becomes a generational problem. I see it all the time. And I don't know a lot of black people, so don't think that I'm talking about that, because it's fucking in the white community huge, and getting bigger and bigger all the time. People just live off the government. Which makes criminals, because their government money only goes so far. Excuse me. So they need more. They need more money than that. And well, a lot of them work under the table. Don't claim that money. They're not contributing to the overall society, but they're also taking out of that overall society to get their check, while making their work is all theirs as well. Which, there's a lot to be said, because the government takes too much of our fucking money overall, but then when you do shit like that, you're screwing over everybody else. Anyhow. Yeah, the social net that we put up is just a criminal making process. And then we get these minor criminals, put them into a prison system or jails or whatever. So you're taking them out of their life, whatever it could have been, especially criminals who have a job. You're taking them away from all of that, putting them into a jail where they get gym equipment and all this fucking shit that they shouldn't have, all this free time and all good meals, and they get to hang out with a bunch of other criminals and learn better ways of doing crime. They all get to discuss their crimes and give each other pointers and tips, and they come out better criminals. So we actually make these super criminals, right? Because now they're bigger, stronger, better than they were, and fucking smarter at their crime. And wonder why our system's all messed up. Ridiculous, right? If we were to come at that from a different angle, we could have much more reform. I think capital punishment is the way to go. And I know you're thinking, kill people? No, don't kill people. Well, in some cases, sure. But first offense, especially for like minor 25-year-old under, but anybody, first offense, even drinking and driving, shit like that. Once a month or whatever, everybody gets together in town square, and you get to watch and you film it, put it on TV, put it all over the internet, and you get to watch all these bad boy criminal tough guys get a bare ass spanking, literally, and use paddle or whatever you got to do, so that they cannot sit straight for a fucking 2 weeks, and they're crying. Now I know there's tough guys out there who ain't gonna cry, but they're still not gonna sit right for fucking weeks. They're not gonna be all this shit or whatever, and they're gonna be embarrassed to fuck by being spanked bare ass as a grown man, or if they want to call themselves a man when they're 18, 17, 16, whatever, these kids. And then your kid watching that isn't going to idolize that guy, for one, and is not going to want to see that. They're not going to want to have that. That's a true deterrent of crime. When you're seeing that as a child, that is, especially if it's some guy that you thought was tough and cool, is now crying like a little girl. You know what I mean? That's gonna impact your mind, and you're gonna make better choices. And you don't have a criminal record. You don't have this person taken out of society and put on their whole life put on fucking hold, and all their bills gathering up, and they lose their apartment, and they're fucking now like coming out homeless and fucking poor and all fucked up. They just can't sit right. It might affect their job if they work on a computer, or if they work anywhere. It's going to hurt. Walking around, doing anything, it's going to hurt. But it's only going to hurt for a couple of weeks, and then you're going to be better, and life goes on, and all is forgiven. And if you make another offense, then up the punishment. I think, personally, right along the guys getting spanked, your second offenders come out and they get whipped, just one lash from shoulder blade to hip bone across their back. First offense. Second offense makes it an X. Third offense, which would just be, we could put a line down through the X, maybe down their spine, or you like, sorry, you're shit out of luck. You're banished from this country. And we do something with them somehow. I think we buy an island somewheres that's, go back to that kind of Australia thing where it's prison island. Have food and everything on there. Maybe do airdrops for them once a month. Make sure they got some supplies and clothes and shit. But and then they can just fend for themselves. And if they want to rehabilitate, well, they got a whole land there, food, trees, tools, whatever. They can build cities and work out governments and do their thing, build a society. Second train's going by. Yeah, that's better. Pretty up, you fucking freak. Anyways, hi guys, how's it going? Probably should edit that shit. Anyhow, gonna talk about programming. I took it in school, in case you didn't know. I took in high school. I went to a vocational school, and it was converting into more of the modern age. So I could also take all these programming and computer courses. DOS and shit like that. It was old. But, and I got a second diploma saying that I had a computer thing. But then I also went to college and took graphic design. But in that, you had to take programming courses as well, so that you understood how your graphics work with the programmers, and you had to be able to communicate with the programmers in such a way that you could both understand each other, right? So they had to take graphic courses as well, and learned a lot about programming. So later in life, and throughout life, I guess, I've learned about human programming, and especially later in life. Always knew it was possible to program humans, as we can look at Jeffrey Dahmer or Hitler or whatever, extreme cases, right? But you can program a person very quickly. If you, there's actually pickup strategies that you can use to manipulate someone's thoughts to create a false relationship in order to have a false sense of trust with each other and get them to sleep with you faster, like in minutes. And I'm ashamed to say that I have put some of those to the test in my life. And I'm glad that I don't anymore, and that I wouldn't, and that I'm not even going to speak about it because it's not a good one. But there are simple ways like that. And then there's other brainwashing and programming where there was a joke about this kid and his father going for a drive, and they get in a car accident, and it builds up this big story. And then they get to the hospital, and the doctor says, I can't operate on that child. He's my son. Who's the doctor or whatever, right? But they built it up in your head so that you're thinking of a man, and no one ever would come to the thought that it was his mom. And especially, this was in the early 90s, late 80s kind of thing, so it was less women were doctors. Anyway, there's another one with a guy running from home. He leaves his home and he runs to the right for a while, and then he makes a turn, a left, and he runs for a while, and he makes another left, and he runs for a while, and then he makes, so that was a right, a left, and then he makes another left, and he's running back home, and there's two men waiting for him in black uniforms and masks. Who are the two men? And you're naturally thinking of his house, not home plate. And it's a baseball diamond, and he just ran around, and that's the umpire and the catcher. But and they call that brainwashing, I guess, where you're leading the brain to think one way when it's in order to trap the thought process. Another one is in school systems. They say, explain to me how the Big Bang works, rather than saying, explain to me how the universe was created, right? They've already put the kid in a box of the Big Bang. And then we see, well, I traveled around a bit, and I want to, my dreams to open up a commune for, a mental health facility and off-grid community living center, where you have some therapists, obviously, and medical professionals on site, but the people work together like a group therapy type thing to help each other and build community. And for those of us that don't really fit to society so much, it's a productive society that you could become a part of and fit to. and be more happy in your life so that you don't have drug and alcohol problems as your life choices like I do as I make this drug. So um, the dream of that, I lost what I was originally talking, how that linked to programming. The bunny path I was going down there. Anyways, the human brain is because I traveled around and went to some different communes and lived among them and seen how they work and don't work, and what makes them work and making them not work. And if you want to do something for God, say you want to be a priest or a preacher, to prove that, you go to a church and you volunteer your time and you serve under another preacher to show that you're a good servant and that it doesn't matter where you're at, you just want to serve God, right? That's why I do these videos. It's the same thing. I don't edit and do all this fancy shit and look for viewers. I'm putting out a good message, and I hope that it reaches the right people who can grasp it and it can help them step to the next level in their understanding. That's it. Like, it's not about making a bunch of money. Now that would be great. I don't know, whatever. If you go viral, that's wonderful. But that would be scary as shit too, right? I get nervous talking to when I get 50 views. I'm like, ooh, fuck. It's a lot of people. Expected 6. Anyhow, but keep just pushing it out and hope for the best. The linger longer thing, the programming that I saw in these other farms, some where there was no programming and there was just no order, no anything. It was just chaos. A couple people doing all the work, a bunch of people just living life and being slobs and lazy, and fights and arguments and bickering going on constantly. And then others that there was virtually no fights to see or be seen that I was there. And I was there for a long time. And, but the conditioning and the brainwashing and the submittance that they wanted, it was a cult straight out. Even really got aggressive with me when they took me to their leader. But utilizing the Bible and then picking one or two scriptures over the entire book and just really focusing on those scriptures and I don't know, trying to emphasize how giving away everything and giving up your life for God, the only way that was possible was to give up all your worldly possession and work with this cult in order to, for nothing other than your daily bread or this, that, whatever, and to spread the word. But, the only true path to God was to be able to give up everything for your fellow man. If you couldn't do it all then you didn't do any. And they really manipulated that. And it was tricky arguing with them. They know their Bible through and through, but they really drill that scripture and anything related to that scripture as being the only way, right? They use Jesus. They talk about Yeshua. They don't use Jesus' name. They use the original biblical name, which is fine because they use a lot of Hebrew and a lot of the Hebrew stuff. Um, and they claim to be the 12 tribes that are going to be saved, but they're not Hebrews. They're not Israelites. So it doesn't make any damn sense. But they're claiming, again, or they're picking parts of the Bible that say that everybody can be engrafted now into the Israelites, and that even some Israelites aren't really engrafted and truly, and that just being an Israelite doesn't necessarily mean that you're engrafted. So they manipulate these things to make you really want to give up everything and just give your whole life to the cult. And it's not a bad life. In their defense, the life that they live is kind of neat. It felt like Dances with Wolves, kind of, where the culture was so different. It was like going back in time to some like one of the movie sets of like the Pilgrims or whatever. No, sorry guys, you're gonna have to just deal with the train. I can't have all the smoke in here and get my walls all finished up. Anyhow, the no, that sucks. He is going away. Dahoy. So yeah, they think that they're the 12 tribes, and obviously, when it comes to the rapture and the 12 tribes and who's going to be those are blood Israelites, not engrafted Israelites. Now, I don't want to tear your hopes away. Maybe you'll be one who's not an Israelite that will be engrafted in to make up the 144,000 based on your belief structure being matching whatever tribe it is, like Philadelphia or whatever. But yeah, I don't think so. It's not worded that way. Anyway, their society worked wonderful. The things that they did and stuff like that, where they all would get together after eat their meals together, praise together, sing together, dance together, and all go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, work together all day, work on a positive goal that they all agree on, and a lot of positivity there. No boozing or drink, like no drugs, none of that shit. And, just a really devoted life, right? But it was a little extreme for my liking. So I think there's somewheres in the middle of the road that Linger Longer could be. But it gets me all to that programming thing. These people were programmed big time into this cult to the point that they would ignore the rest of the Bible. Like people in schools are programmed to ignore science, logic, reason, accountability, all those things, and just remember what you're told. And that's why girls are so much better at school than boys, because they're better at just, okay, yes, OUGH can make any sound it wants. That's fine by me. I'll just remember that forever. Great. Stars and bubbles and hearts, And a guy's like, no, that doesn't make any fucking logical sense. Those letters you gave me sounds that they make, and there you're giving me opposite sounds, and it doesn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And same can go for science. Like you say, oh, the Grand Canyon was cut by the Colorado River over millions of years. But we found two ancient lakes that when it was filled, it created these two huge lakes. And there's no delta at the mouth where the river would have dropped off the rocks and stuff that it was cutting out. And the Colorado River at its highest altitude isn't as high as the top of the Grand Canyon. And there's rivers that go into the Grand Canyon at greater than 90-degree angles, suggesting that it was cut recently and not over time, but quickly. And that it hasn't had time to erode away the rocks to make acute angles for the river, for the water to go for its path of least resistance. So all this evidence says different, but just ignore all that. And here's the scientific consensus. And that was my argument with AI, was because that's what its fucking answer was for everything, was yes, that's true, but the scientific consensus, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, oh my fucking God, would you shut up about the scientific consensus? That's like me trying to convince you of the Bible and using fucking Bible quotes. I'm just going to piss you off because you don't believe in the Bible as an authority figure. So I'm just starting from a stance of nothing, right? And then AI, I was trying to explain to it, you come to me with your authority figure of this scientific consensus, and then I shoot holes all through it and show you all these instances of where it's wrong, and you still keep coming with that as your evidence. You never back it up with real evidence, right? And then I asked it about like things like gravity. I said, well, Isaac Newton was a super smart mathematical genius. If I took $1 million to him and said, make a mathematical equation for a force that doesn't exist, and we'll call it gravity, and just make it equal something and attribute it to, you know, any experiment that you really want to, like buoyancy and density and mass and whatever, use whatever, and just make something work, make it equal, make it big so that it's harder to follow. We want to make a lot of factors in there that really expand this into something that is high sounding nonsense. And she said, yeah, fuck, of course. And she made me this big formula, and I made a whole thesis about this artificial force that, and a mathematical equation for it, and all of its, what attributed it to it and how it all worked and all that stuff. Though none of it was real, it just, AI popped it out like that, like nothing, right? So Sir Isaac Newton probably had to work hard to make that formula, but it's just a fucking formula. Doesn't have any empirical testable evidence to it, right? But we just believe that shit. Just blindly believe it, right? Without actually seeing it. And then NASA's fucking pictures of outer space again, right? I talk about that all the time, where it's just ones and zeros, and then a graphic artist makes a picture. And we just blindly believe it. But it's just an interpretation of the information that they tell him, which I just make it up. It's like like the theory that Stephen Hawking was a puppet, not a fucking scientist. And at any point in his career, they could have just fucking changed that. Like he might have been the greatest scientist in history at a certain point. What's he going to do if you just start speaking for him? You just take over the fucking control of his chair and wheel him around by remote and type in what you want him to fucking say. He can't even fucking change his facial expression to let you know that that's not what he's fucking thinking. Anyway, God bless. Have a great day, guys. To get welcome back. But if you're not a willing participant in our society, sorry about your luck, you gotta go. And then as far as like welfare systems and stuff like that go, just there should be a limit on it. Single mom, whatever, 2 years maybe, something like that, whatever. Come up with some reasonable number. A single dad, same thing. Just a single person or a couple, 4 months, 5 months. That should be lots of time for you to fucking get a job. And especially if during those 4 or 5 months you're given aid in some way, like we got people that are there to help you build your resumes, show you where to put them, find job opportunities for you, do all kinds of stuff for you. You should be able to get a job in that amount of time. And then obviously, if you're disabled or whatever, well, there would be a ton more money for people like that, for us to be able to look after the people who possibly just can't. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be reasonable as a society as well. And if it's like, well, fuck, this guy's like, can't work for some reason or another. Say, I'll just use a friend of mine for an example. He's a butcher and a tradesperson, and one of his arms just is dead or whatever. It doesn't grow muscle on it, and it can't work anymore. It just stopped working. I think he was in an accident or something. So he can do a little bit with it, but very, very little. So he kept working for a few years with that injury, but at a certain point, he just can't anymore. He's a painter as well, but you can't even hold the paint can with that one to be able to paint with his good one, kind of thing. And so yeah, we got to look after him. Sure, that's fine. And there would be a pile of money to look after such a person if we didn't look after the other guy down the road who could have a job, but he's 25, 30 years old, been on welfare for years, works under the table here or there, whatever, does crime all the time, been in and out of fucking jail, and is perfectly, a big muscly guy, because he's been in and out of jail all the time, perfectly capable of getting a ton of fucking jobs. Go to Tim Hortons, they take you on, and McDonald's, whatever. Blend into society. If you can't, if you every time you get that job, you blow it somehow or another, well, again, that's not society's fucking fault. Everybody can keep some job somewhere, doing something, unless you're, and even then, you can be a greeter at Walmart or whatever. Fucking stock boys and shit like that. Like, people figure things out, man. Dumber people than the people that are on welfare, or slower, or people who are less fortunate in body, mind, or what have you. And they do a wonderful job fitting into society and taking care of themselves, living on their own, going to work all the time. I know a lot of them. I try to help them out whenever I can, whatever, right? If they need rides or drives or whatever, fuck. Richard's a great guy. Who's in this city? I help out, and then my buddy James. I can't remember what his buddy is. His name is offhand. Barry. Yeah, it's Barry. Barry's a great guy. They both, way different jobs. One of them washes dishes. One of them works at fucking Walmart stocking shelves. They're both slow, but they're both fucking super hardworking, loyal employees. Do their fucking job and do it right. Put their heads down and just, best of their fucking abilities every day. Why can't you? You can figure out how to break into houses, rob stores, and fucking do all this other shit, steal cars, find new and creative drugs, these whippets and things like, what the fuck? then so worry about your luck. Now, again, with the drugs, if our society was better, people wouldn't go to drugs. We've proven that with the rats in the lab where they gave a single rat a bunch of cocaine and he fucking killed himself over and over again. But then they gave like 20 rats a bunch of cocaine and toys and balls and each other and playtime and all this shit. None of them touched the cocaine. You know, it would get the odd little touch here, there, whatever. But really, they kind of all did it once and then they just kind of stayed away from it, went to the regular water, and we're all happy. It's the same thing with the human brain. It's like I was saying with programming. If your brain is programmed to know that the future is fucking bleak, no matter what job you have, you're never going to make it, kind of thing. Like, if all you can do is fucking work at Walmart, then you're just going to live in an apartment your whole life and you're going to fucking be this and you're going to be that and you're gonna. Then people just lose hope. And they're just like, fuck it. I don't want to fucking do this. And they drink every day, party, and they fucking ruin themselves. Or go online and make fucking horrible videos about like pranking people and doing all this fucking self-destructive shit. For what? I just don't get it. Sorry, I do get it. Totally fucking understand it and know that it's a plague in our society. That's why Linger Longer, that I was talking about earlier in a video today, is a great idea. The mental health facility that is a farm and an off-grid living community where everybody is of the same nature, basically. So it's all depressed, anxiety, and anger people, you know, that just are frustrated with the society and they're just at their wits' end. And a lot of them are kids. Nowadays, teenagers with fucking anger issues that you wouldn't believe. Well, you see it online. It is heartbreaking to see these fucking kids with these super anger issues and then other kids that are so fucking depressed, killing themselves and shit. Record numbers. And not just kids, men and women. It's a fucking plague in our society. And I think the Linger Longer idea, where the farm have to be huge, you know, like 100 acres or something, but have your walking trails, different things like that going on, some cabins for living, your big main house for overnight guests and for group meetings, meals, classes, whatever. Have it set up very homey and cozy in the main area, the kitchen, dining areas, and the bedrooms, and then have your kind of an open basement that's like more of a classroom, music kind of area for whatever, teaching and broadening people. Knowledge is power. We don't realize what that means until you attain knowledge. And then you can start to understand that even in subtle ways and in small ways, it affects your brain, which affects your decision making and affects your whole life. And a lot of it's gradual, really slow and this and that, but it just does. And so guitar learning, drawing, anything like that. But then more importantly, on the farm, you learn gardening. You could go out into the woods and make the walking trails. You could go out into the woods, cut down firewood and bring it back and cut and split it and all that. And You could build the little cottages that the people are going to live in, and knowing that all that work that you do is going into a community that's going to be there to help people that are going through the same problems that you're going through. And that if you're just one of those people who just doesn't fit into society anywheres, and you can't really find your place, and you just want something simple, want contentment and happiness, and to have your day-to-day work be purposeful for something, then you just come there and live there. And even if, say, you were a lawyer or something, but you just want out of that society, you know, but you'd love your job, part of it, just not your life after a job. You could still live there, be a part of the community, and pay some bills, right? Just whatever, work out what a fair share is. You know, a lawyer's going to make a ton of fucking money, so they're going to have money left over and be able to do things that not everybody can do on the farm, but they're also going to take, you know, their share to pay for their meals, their rent, their cleaning, and that kind of shit, and help support the community. And, you know, one would think that they would have heart to give more if they could, you know, like knowing that whatever it is to that cause, but knowing that there also is no obligation to give more. That was the problem with the other calls, where they just wanted you to give up every fucking part of your life. No, you know, and even like somebody wants to smoke a little pot, or have a glass of fucking wine, or whatever. Whatever. Don't get shit faced. Don't smoke constantly and do nothing all fucking day. You know, you can smoke all day. I don't give a shit. I smoke all day, but I'm productive. I get a lot of work done, which is different than just a lot of potheads just want to fucking sit around, play games, or chill and just do nothing, you know. Stigma with them, but it's just a stigma. A lot of people get really highly motivated, want to go out in the garden and sit down and have a smoke and play with the flowers or feed the animals or whatever, right? And then having animals to talk to is a lot of times simpler for people with issues. If you're abused, bullied, feel negative about yourself, a lot of times you can't open up to a person because it's too vulnerable. But if you talk to an animal about it, you could alleviate it. A lot of times just saying things out loud, communicating what you feel, alleviates the pressure of it. You see it a lot smaller. You're like, okay, now that I've got it in perspective, maybe it's not as detrifying to my life as I thought, you know? So, yeah, I'm broke right now or whatever, but my rent's paid, I got food, I'm warm, you know, things could be worse. I got a paycheck coming. You know, these are the kinds of things that all of a sudden come into light when you start talking about the things that are depressing you. And then you think, okay, well, yeah, but maybe that's not so big, you know, maybe whatever the case is, you know, that you get bullied or whatever. And then obviously having professional therapists there for anybody. Not that it wouldn't be a place for severe cases. It's more of a place for someone to reach out to. So like when you I've worked in a ton of jobs, and every time there's just these people that just hate their fucking lives. And there's nothing really wrong with their lives, but they're just stuck where they're at, and they just hate their jobs, and they're never gonna get out of it, and they, you know, program themselves that they're stuck in there and that they couldn't do any better or whatever. There's nowhere else for them. There's nothing else for them, and this is the only life, and this is it, kind of thing. And then they get super depressed and down, and start hurting themselves: booze and alcohol, drugs, partying, gambling, whatever. And all those are symptoms of a bigger problem that is how our society's been going. You used to be able to pump gas at the gas station and own a fucking house, and your wife stay home and raise the kids. Maybe you didn't have a great life in your house. You had a trailer, but you fucking owned it. You had a little bit of yard there or something, right? And the guy that worked at even the local restaurants and shit like that, like they could afford to have a life above just living in an apartment forever. And every bank saying, no way, what do you make? Just over minimum wage or whatever. Like they just overlook it and shit. Dishwasher, screw you. And you're kept in a station of life that just sucks. So this would be an option for those people to just say, no, I'm done with society. I'm done with this shit. I want to work. I want to contribute. But I want to contribute to something beneficial to mankind. I don't want to just be a fucking slave and a cog in the stupid wheel of a Walmart or whatever. And so I want to be contributing to something greater, and have a day-to-day that I actually want to wake up to. When I get up in the morning, I can be like, oh, fuck, what am I going to get into today? And go out and explore around, run into people that are all similar of heart and mind that I am, and associate and whatever, mingle a bit, and then all go and do different chores and jobs together to work towards a common goal that is the betterment and a choice for all of mankind, because linger longer would be like a franchise eventually, basically. Not that it's bad, but it would, be it would be nice to have one in at least every state and province, and have that option for people to go. And then if you get full and you're making too much production for your land mass, you buy another landmass in that same state or province in order to accommodate. You split the people and do your thing, just expand. Funding it would be, well, it's all farms, right? So it looks after itself, but there would also be some sort of crop to sell and trade amongst the other members, like the other farms, if they're nearby here or there, if it's convenient, right? And one farm grows hay and the other farm grows cows. You send beef and you send hay. But if one farm and it's all by itself, nothing's around, it grows as balls as beef, well, you just sell a bunch of the beef and accommodate to buy the hay to feed the cows, to grow more beef and feed yourselves and all that kind of stuff. But then on top of all of that, you have a herbal pharmacy for every location in the nearest hub city, where it's just that it's a herbal pharmacy, and you could work with, again, all the different farms to have a better selection of different herbs and the breakdowns of them to make the medicines needed to balance the human body, and also work with the botanical gardens to do the same, because they have one there. So you could just buy your full inventory right from them at first, and then as you grow your own, you slowly work in your own products, cutting out the overhead, making more money, and trading between the farms. You know, if one farm's growing these types of herbs, and then maybe another farm's in a different climate and grow all together different things, they trade back and forth, kind of thing. More like an Amish thing without the Amish stigma of the cultism. It would be a very Christian community. Obviously, I think that has to be the fundamental of something like this. So everybody would have to be Christian in and on the same page that way. And without God, nothing's successful. That's why America is so successful, because it's a people under God in the Constitution. I know they're trying to destroy that, but because it was written that way, it's lasted so long and been so powerful and so strong, and a beacon to the world, and whatever. It's done amazing things. You could say all kinds of bad shit about prejudice, this race, this, blah, blah, blah. They're the only ones to stop slavery, abolish it, and just move forward and try to come up with a better society for all of man, And yes, there's still problems, but we can work these problems out. And especially if we all work together, right? But we're led by a bunch of Satanists, and they don't want us working together. They want us separated by small issues and any issue that they can possibly separate us by, which is obvious. But that's basically what every other fucking video I've ever had is about. So there you go. All right, I'm going to shut up. Again, like the fourth time today to say, all right, God bless you guys. Have a great day. See you later.